All right. So just to bring us all together, I have a karakia for us, which I'll lead. But please all, put your mics on and join with me. Thank you. Tu taua mai I runga.
I runga.
Tu taua mai
mai
I
I
raro.
raro.
Tu taua mai I roto.
roto.
Tu taua mai I
I
waho.
waho.
Ia tau
Ia tau
te
ai te
mauri
mauri
tū.
tū.
Te mauri
Mauri
ora
ora
ki te
ki te
katoa.
katoa.
Homi e,
Hemi e.
wi e, tai ki e.
Tai ki e.
Thank you, everyone. So just a word of welcome. Kia ora koutou. My name's Mark Bassett. I work at AUT. One of your members of the ChatLAANZ exec. I co-edit the ChatLAANZ journal with Deborah Laws. And yeah, the people who are speaking today, Kaaryn, Tania and I'u and myself, we're really happy to be here to hopefully have a really interesting discussion about learning advisors and doing research. So we've all prepared things that we are happy to talk about, but something that I think we really wanted to prioritize, if we can, are these questions that hopefully everyone can see at the moment. And we'd be really happy just to talk to these questions, actually. So we can just take a moment to sort of soak up what's there in terms of the questions we'd love to talk about. So thinking about what, as a learning advisor, how can we do research? It's not necessarily a straightforward or clear path. Thinking about the kind of research that you actually would like to be doing, who would benefit from that, thinking about those sort of bigger motivations. And then, in terms of your own institutions, your contexts, do you have a sense of what's available to you that's going to support you in pursuing research? And yeah, what do you think you need to start something, or perhaps keep something going if you've already started it? So some big questions there. But yeah, I'm very happy for us to take a pause at this stage and open up the floor. I'm gonna. I can't really see all of the chat and everything, so. But if there's anyone sort of desperate to sort of share based on any of these questions at this point or react to that, I'll hand the floor over. Just indicate you'd like to speak and turn on your mic.
Mark, do you want to tell us some of your favourite learning advisor projects that you've seen in the journal and other places?
I can. But yeah, I've got something I can share that I've done, and Tania and I'u are both going to do similar. So yeah, I mean, I will just put in a plug for the journal. Thank you for that, Ruth. But yeah, we've got a really interesting sort of collection of different authors and researchers that have submitted with the journal over the last several years. And something that Deborah and I are very keen to do is sort of provide a space for the learning advisors in Aotearoa to have a space that they feel they can publish in. And yeah, some of us are more experienced at doing that than others. Some of us are doing this for the first time, or very early on in any of this work. And yeah, perhaps some of us here have never done publishing, and we're very, very keen to work with all of you, basically. And we have a standard, in terms of what we're publishing and everything, but we also want to be incredibly open and think about what types of research can we publish, and what types of other literature that people might want to write can we publish? And we'd always be very interested in discussing those with anyone who's interested, basically. Yeah, but I don't want to make this all about publishing just yet. There's a few steps along to get to that stage, of course. But yeah, I mean, does anyone have any other sort of reactions to these questions, or questions that these particular questions spark for them? Feel free to ask right now. Please go for it.
I'm just wondering if anybody else experiences or feels conflict with the setup of their role in terms of the first one. While we were academics, doing research was a part of that brief. We went through a number of restructures and ended up being under a professional staff contract, which doesn't require us to do research. But yet we're still expected to do it.
It's an interesting one because there's difficulty across the sector for learning advisors around whether or not it's part of their contract, and the conflict is also whether or not they should participate, and it not be a part of their contract. And there's always a dilemma around that, because I'm of the opinion, and would love to hear what everybody else is thinking, but I have an obligation to be thinking about, from a kaupapa Māori perspective, I have an obligation to be thinking about what can I do to make improvements in the sector, in education, that will benefit tomorrow's students, if not today's. And so that's always kind of my starting premise, whether or not I participate. Often the matter of fairness doesn't come into my mind at that stage, because it's about what am I going to do to make those improvements. So there is a dilemma, I think, for many people who might have a contract. So it's part of our contract that a handful of us in my department to do research, and it's not with others, it's not. So it is a dilemma. I think it's a valid dilemma. And I do think that just coming away from that, this is something that comes into that professional domain of when we go along and pull together our framework for professionalism as applied to learning advisors. It will be interesting to see how that might make explicit or even challenge the position of those who are not being, what's the right word then, who are not receiving payment or the correct kind of contract to allow them to do research. That was a long way of me saying we should all be doing research.
Yeah, I guess something I could add to that would be that, yeah, I think it is challenging if you're not in a role that sort of mandates it, and you're not given any sort of time really to do it unless you've got a pretty cool manager or leadership staff who want to facilitate it. There's those sort of stresses and tensions, I think, and something that we're trying to do from our end at AUT is try and set up as many collaborative projects as we can. So we work across departments, faculty, teams within our department, which is the library at AUT. That's where we sit. And so we have a mixture of academic and professional and faculty academic staff that can collaborate, and you provide different roles, right? So I think that's another way to sort of be involved, but not necessarily have to take on every single step in the process.
Yeah, there's one other thing that I would add is that, and I think you all know it as well, that we do offer a different perspective to that learning teaching sort of nexus. What we've found is that with our shift of focus, or rather on language, etc., what we found is that lecturers are very good at what's the word? Telling their students what they're doing wrong. They're not very good at telling the students what they need to do in simple terms, or at least to show them language models for what they're supposed to be doing. So I got a feeling that as far as the learning advisor is concerned, he's anything to do with that learning teaching where you're dealing with students or whatever. I think that's that the voice of the learning advisor is very important to be part of that nexus. So yeah, I guess I'm saying that research is absolutely necessary, and partnering up with the academics to do that. Yeah. But what I found is the academics usually have got their own agenda, and it's being sneaky about getting your stuff in there. Well, not being sneaky, but showing them that it is important and equally valid, and together that it will benefit the students.
I really like, thank you, Quinton. Quinton went along and wrote down some ideas of what kind of research would he like to do. And I think we're in agreement there, which is, I'm making the assumption here that everybody agrees that research is important. So taking that off the table, let's go to the next phase, which is what kind of research do I want to do? And I love what Quinton's written, which is research that improves our effectiveness and absolute, that seeks to give voice to students, critical and necessary, that celebrates synergies between learning advisors, librarians, and faculty, which was just what I'u was just talking about, but also, and Mark was talking about, but also that conveys to the wider community the value of the work that we do. I think for a while, and you can correct me on this, we've done pockets of research from this institution and that institution, and every now and then we come back to a collaborative overview. For example, we were trying to give effective voice around what is a learning advisor. We did that research combining the different stories, the different pūrākau from different institutes to say this is trying to give evidence-based practice, or evidence for our practice and the things that we do. And we've done that in the past, but I don't think there's been that consistency. I want to hear from everybody else to say, do you want to do research, and what are the barriers perhaps to you being able to do the research? Because I think that's a very real difficulty. Would anybody like to contribute to that?
Kia ora. So Dora, I want to contribute to that. I just want to tautoko what everyone said so far. And actually one of the conversations I had with our learning advisor and disability advisor Māori team this morning was actually around the idea of starting to think about research that they might want to pursue next year. And partly, I suppose, as a senior academic, I'm trying to get them started on the journey. So it may not necessarily be a big piece of research, but actually starting to think about areas that they have an interest in. But one of the things I'm hoping that will, all going well with Te Pukenga, is that because we are pockets of Māori advisors across the network, that we could actually work across the network within the Māori space to do research. Because I know Poharama, who's our learning advisor that leads our Tuakana Taina program, he's definitely keen to be looking into pedagogies and other ideas and things that could be done in that space. But he's just one person here, but we have that same initiative across the network. So one of the things I sort of feel as learning advisors is that I'd like us to be able to work as a network and collaborate across institutions rather than having to try and do something individually. Kia ora.
Yeah, fully agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
It also fits in with the philosophy behind Te Pukenga, if you like, which is manawa nui, manawa ora, manawa roa, which is about that connectivity, that we are no longer just in isolation, but that we sit under the same umbrella, and that we should have that synergy, that connectiveness in sufficient amount to be able to collaborate and bring forth a piece of research that is relevant to our institute. So kia ora for that one. And any thoughts about that collaboration, I think is absolutely powerful. I love that idea. Thank you, Dora. Anyone else want to contribute? So what I thought we might do is if we've got quiet voices, we might just kind of fill in the space with some information for you, just in case you're new to actually, we've got quite a few people online now, so I'm just wondering, can people put up their hand, raise their hand, if they are new to research? Can somebody just raise your hand? I mean the picture hand, yeah. The icon hand, yeah. So I think you might have you might find this piece of information really valuable. It's just a Windows view into what is research. Karen, Mark, I'u, and myself, we've prepared a slide show of just introducing some of the concepts of, or the research process to you. And I wonder if Karen, if you wouldn't mind just starting that off with the PowerPoint, just to give an idea of what is research, what is necessary in it.
Kia ora, Tania, thank you for that. Mark, are you in the driving seat of the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I'm just trying to fish it out from where I've saved it. So
okay, well, while you're
do you guys want to talk a bit more, and then or you can share it if you like, Karen, if you've got it there.
I don't know if I have it up actually. Can you?
Thanks, Tania.
Yes, I'll do it.
Thanks, Tania. So while all this is happening, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Kaaryn Cater. I'm a learning advisor at Whitireia Weltec Te Pukenga. So we'll just wait for the slide. Can we put it on view?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. So someone else will need to drive this too. So
you should be able to move the slides, Karen. I think we can.
Can
all
I?
Should
you
be
think
possible.
I can? Not happening.
I can do it. Tell me when you want me to move.
Okay, all right, I will. So for those of you who are new to research, this is just a little idea of how the process looks and works. There are tweaks here and there depending on many factors, but essentially these are the main parts of any research project. Thank you, Tania. Thank you. Okay, so first of all, you identify a need. So what do I want to find out? Why do I want to find it out? Who will benefit? This is actually round the other way. It should be you conduct a literature review and then you identify a gap in the literature. That's actually how all my research got started. Many moons ago, I was curious about things that I was seeing with students through my practice as a learning advisor. And so then I ended up doing a PhD on the basis of that, just being interested to know what was going on. So this is the initial stage here. what are you interested? What do you want to find out? And then find the gap in the literature. The next bit is coming up with a question. You want to answer a research question, decide on the methodology that underpins what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to affect change or you're trying to make a difference, you choose a methodology that's going to promote change within the findings of your research. Have a think about who your participants are going to be and look at how are you going to collect data? Do you want quantitative data? So that's numbers. Do you want qualitative data? So that gives a lived experience. Or what about mixed methods? That gives you both. And think about the way that you're going to analyse your data. Thanks, Tania. Ethics application is really important. So each institution will have slightly different ways of doing it. It's a really good idea to get some really detailed advice before you start putting your ethics application together. So find out what the process is, find out what the time frame is. And this is important because if you're wanting to get started on your research project, you actually can't do that until you have ethics approval. And just because you've applied for ethics approval, it doesn't mean to say that you're going to be granted it. The ethics committee may come back to you and ask you to do some extra things. So have a think about your time frame and be realistic and know that if you have to go back and add to your ethics application, you're going to have time to do this. So you create a timeline for yourself. Be absolutely meticulous in everything that you do because you don't want to have to repeat your ethics application. Often the ethics committees only meet once a month. So if you miss 1 month or whatever, you can be a whole month out. So and make sure that you submit on time so you know when the deadlines are and you have everything in well in advance. Thanks, Tania.
I was just thinking, Karen, that if I might just talk about inclusion, that time frame thing. You don't want to go back and repeat. I know from experience, having decided to do some research with a colleague of mine who rushed the whole thing together, and he was in charge of the ethics documentation, and unfortunately it came back three times until I took over the application, and I said, listen, we can't be doing this all day. So really you need to, if you do your application and you're doing it in a group, sit together and do it together. Thank you, Karen.
And seek advice also too, if this is your first time or even not. There'll be people at your institution who will be experienced here, so don't be afraid to reach out to them. So for your data collection, you've decided on who your participants are. Now, so what's your method of recruitment? How are you going to recruit your participants? You need to think really clearly about this, because things like anonymity and confidentiality come in here as well. So these are all things that you need to consider with your ethics application. So what kind of method do I want to use for my data collection? Interview, that would be quantitative, possibly. Sorry, no, that's qualitative, sorry. A survey, which would be quantitative. Case study, that's quantitative. Focus groups, qualitative, and focus groups, again, qualitative. So have it, again, think about the information that you want and how you want to collect it. So moving on from there, you've recruited your participants, you've collected your data in whatever format you think is most useful. If you've got qualitative data, so you used a survey, what program are you going to use? SPSS is the most common one for your data analysis. Have a think about what kind of statistics you want to look for and what kind of analysis do you want to do, what would be most useful in terms of answering your research question. And for your qualitative data analysis, again, have a think about how you want to analyse the data, and that will depend on the sort of information that you want. So do you want a thematic analysis or phenomenology? Have a look around and ask questions too. If you're not sure about all of these things, talk to people who have done research and maybe they can come up with some ideas for you. And again, mixed methods gives you Gives you some numbers and some patterns to work with, and it also gives you some lived experience as well. And then finally, the final part of your research, of course, is dissemination, because there's no point doing research unless you can share your findings, because that's what we want to do, right? We want to change things. We want to make a difference. We want to make improvements. So what's the purpose? What would be the audience for your dissemination? And think about the best fit. Would it be conference presentations, workshops, or a publication in the ChatLAANZ journal, perhaps? And then once you've gone through this whole process, it's really important to evaluate the process, every part of it, to see, like what could I have done better, what went well, what didn't go so well, what have I learned, what could be better next time. And so that's really just a broad overview of the general research process. So I hope that that's helpful in some ways for some people. And yeah,
just to let people know, I think that word was meant to be quantitative and then qualitative.
What did I say?
It's got qualitative and qualitative.
Oh, where?
Under data analysis.
Under data analysis. Yeah, it was intentional.
You were
I think you like qualitative research more. I think that's what you're trying to tell us, Kaaryn.
What's that?
I think you prefer qualitative, is what you're trying to tell us.
Actually, I don't. So yeah, anyway, I know, look, I always get all a bit tongue-tied, and obviously writing-tied when it comes to qualitative and quantitative, but qual's the numbers, qual's the experience. Yeah.
I'm just going to put a pause on that for now. We've still got some information that we'd love to share. Actually, shall we just carry on? Because Mark's got a good example. Following this process, Mark's got a good example of all of these. So I thought I'd just throw it. Yeah, let's do it. Why don't you carry on, Mark?
Yeah, thanks very much, Tania. Yeah, so basically just looking at those stages in the process that Kaaryn was very nicely describing to us. Yeah, I thought I could just quickly talk through a research project that I've been involved in with two of my colleagues. And we basically started this process towards the end of last year, and we're now, yeah, it's still ongoing, but we've disseminated already by this stage. So basically, following what Kaaryn was saying, the need that we were trying to address were related to the students' access to the online resources that we provide. So most of our teams are all providing online resources, and I don't know about you, but oftentimes if you ask a student, have you ever seen X before, whatever it is you're showing them, pretty much you can guarantee they'll say, oh, I didn't even have any idea that any of this existed, or words that are similar. So what we were trying to look at was how can we improve the access to this content at AUT. So we've done quite a lot of pre-reading on this over the years, but essentially we put together a research proposal in the form of an ethics application. So in our case, these two things were kind of one, and that was basically to design a user experience research project. So we wanted to get students together with us, testing out things that we've got and telling us the experiences that they have of the resources that we create. So to do that, we put together our ethics application and submitted that to our AUT ethics committee. And yeah, barring a couple of little things that they wanted us to tweak, it was pretty straightforward. But that's again a little bit based on the experience that we had in the team. So some of us had been through these processes before, and we could anticipate the sorts of issues that the ethics committee would take interest in based on what we were trying to do. So yeah, we got the approval towards the end of the year. Thanks, Tania. And that took us into collecting the data, which we did during the early part of 2023. We met with 6 students individually, and we basically conducted a user experience session with them that had 3 activities in it. The one is called usability testing. So we sit students down in front of a computer get them to try things out in our resources and see what happens, and ask them what their impressions and their feelings are. So the image on the left is the sort of home page of our resources, and the one on the right is one of the pages that's about 2 clicks down from there. So a task might be, could they find that? If we said, you need to find something for your assignment and search for information, how do you do that? Can they get there? And then what do they tell us? You can click over now, please. Thank you. Yeah, so another thing we would then ask them to do was, okay, you've got these big groups of those big pieces of paper on the table you see there. Those were category or places where students can find information online at AUT. So similar, I guess, in lots of your institutions, students are pointed to many different spaces online, whether it's the universities or the institution website, the learning management system, the library's search functionality, etc. So what we were trying to find out was the sort of content that students access that we create. So how do you find information? How do you write? How do you read? Where would they want that to be? So we gave them these 5 little groups to put these cards in. So it included things like study skills, pastoral support, and stuff that's more about the work that our team does, especially. And that was really interesting to see that the stuff that we're doing, they wanted to be with all of their study materials, basically, and their course materials. So that's called card sorting. And then the third thing we got them to do was to sit down with us and tell us if you were going to build an assignment page, so the sort of assignment page that they use to submit assignments with, where they get the instructions and so on, what would that look like? And that's nothing to do with our team in terms of design. We don't get to control that. But what we were hoping they would say was one of those green boxes on the left, they would, all of those green boxes on the left, they could pick up and move and put in different places on this sort of blank page. And that was to tell us, what are the important things to them and how do they group these things? Where we thought we would be coming in would be where it says examples. And typically students would say, when we have the instructions and the marking criteria, we'd like to see some examples. And that's the material that we create. So it was just a nice way of trying to prove a little bit of a theory. Students don't tend to go looking for resources, but if we can put them exactly where they're probably going to spend time, then maybe that's the way to go. So that was our data collection. And please move on. Thanks, Tania. And just a snippet of analysis. I could spend all day talking about this, but I'm not going to. So what we're looking at here is one of the designs that students came up with in that activity. And essentially what I'm just saying to you, after we pulled all of the transcripts of these sessions, there were 6 of them. They're about an hour each. We've got 3 different data sets, and an audio recording of the whole session. So lots and lots of data to wade through and find patterns in. Please, just another couple of clicks, Tania. So what we were finding was, students want our content to be easy to find and where their normal materials are. And here are a couple of quotes that we could pull out of all of that would help sort of bolster that claim. So in terms of starting to put together something for write-up, this is the process that we were going through. And just that last one, I'll just call attention to. One of the students was trying to find information about how to do presentations, and they were looking at a menu with lots of things, all of the things. And essentially what they were saying was, I really don't know how you've organized this, and kind of like, I'm not interested how it's organized. Don't make me go looking. Just give me the thing I need, please. It was a very interesting experience. So last one, I promise. So where we're up to now. So this is all sort of mid-year, getting all the data analysis done. Now we're up to at the end of this year. Basically, we've given a report to our own department and a couple of other interested teams. We're implementing the findings. We're making changes to the resources. We just the other night, my colleagues and myself gave a talk to a group of English language teachers who are also creating online resources. And coming up in December, we're going to present some of the findings at the ASCALite conference, which is the sort of local educational technology conference for our region. And the sort of paper that we've written for that's going to be in their proceedings. So yeah, that's just a very quick little whistle-stop tour of what's kind of a small-scale project, and how we went about doing it.
Thank you, Mark. We had an idea that people might be interested in the different methodologies, so we wanted to expose you to that as well. So I get to talk a little bit, just very briefly, because our time's going, on kaupapa Māori research. And literally, it simply means the Māori way of researching, to be honest. But the point of difference is that this style of or methodology of researching connects and participates in Māori knowledge, philosophy, principles, and practices. It assumes ontological purview, which in other words means that we, in the idea of researching, we're very aware of not only what is present but also what is past as well. So that is a normal process of research under kaupapa Māori, and that connectivity with the whenua and with our ancestors. It positions itself to struggle for the autonomy of one's own cultural well-being. In other words, it's very ethnocentric, and assumes that this research will be formed by Māori, for Māori, with Māori. And the ethics are no different to others, but I would say this, that the emphasis is always about mana. In this case, the mana of the people, not only the researcher, but the mana of the people that you are participating with. Theirs is important all the way through. And so that actually places some responsibility on, as in all research, but responsibility on me to think about how I might approach them. So there's a segment there that says te tiro whakarongo kōrero, and in actual fact that means to look, to listen and to speak in that order. So as for example, if my sample group, if I'm doing a focused group, their talk is priority. I'm there just to listen and to look. And then I get to speak a little bit later, because what they share is the important stuff. When we think about what that might look like everybody else, it's the same kind of thing, but that cultural aspect of running a wānanga, thinking about pūrākau as part of that, kanohi ki te kanohi is significant, whai whakaro that's reflecting, focus groups. The purple here is indicative of a research I did, which was on Te Awa conceptual model. And these are the things, the purple parts are the things that I used, came out with from my research. But there's variations here of the different apparatuses that you can use and how you can, very qualitative, dominant, but mixed mode, and thematic was the one that I used in my research. And my dissemination came out in a report, internal report. I presented at ChatLAANZ and Te Toi Tauira mo te Matariki, and did a staff presentation. And that was my one. And I'u, you've got something to share with us as we come to. I'm hoping that we can have time for some questions at the end. You're on mute, I'u.
You're muted, mate.
I thought I clicked on the bloody mic. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
You heard me swearing away. Okay. Yeah. So, the question actually came at quite a nice time, really, because at AUT we've been granted sovereignty again, where we've got this thing called Pacific Research, and actually a group people are looking at this notion of Pacific research and what it means. And so it's still in definition, but it means that there's a group of people that are looking seriously at what constitutes this thing. So, and this is the definition that we've got, that Pacific research is research conducted by tangata moana on tangata moana for the benefit of tangata moana communities. So, and, you know, we're still sort of, for me anyway, tangata moana is anybody that genealogically sort of comes down and thinks that they are. So any research that they, you know, they're my research. At AUT, Pacific research tends to be qualitative, and they've tended to use Pacific research methodologies, and the common ones that some of you would come across, talanoa, kakala, te ulewa, tauhiwa, and they're really to do with people's sociabilities and social interactions with one another. Kakala is a research methodology based on the preparation of flowers for Tongan necklaces. Talanoa is, well, it becomes just, what do they call them again? Guided interviews. Talanoa is supposed to be where you get together and you talk about a topic, and out of it comes something or other. And in practicality, the research methods, they usually go in with some questions. Te ulewa, once again, another process around sociability, the va, of the researcher and the people that they're researching, and the funders, and etc. And tauhiwa is the Tongan version of that as well, but much more with the emotional sort of side. So Pacific research methodologies tended to be qualitative. And just recently, I've been given the opportunity to do some new research with the law faculty. And I'll just show you what that the need is, that it's a scoping research aimed at increasing the pass rates of Pacific and Māori students by looking at inclusive assessments in laws, right? At this point, it's going to be an in-house publication. It's just supposed to advise the lower levels, laws 5 and 6, of certain teaching practices, and in particular, the 50%, because they have to sit a 50% exam, and it's how do we assess the other 50%? And they've got this term inclusive assessments. And of course, I'm interested in inclusive teaching. So I'm trying to squeeze that in. So every time they go assessments, I sort of say assessment and teaching, because I've got a feeling that the two go in hand. But anyway, but that also shows that what I was saying about how learning advisors are looking at things slightly differently from the faculty people who are interested in the ends, you know, that are interested in what sort of inclusive assessments can we give them. And we're much more interested in, okay, if you're going to give them inclusive assessment, that means changing the way that you produce the information, that you present the information, rather. The methodology at this point is going to be a literature review on inclusive teaching and assessment. And I think I told you it's Māori and Pacific. And right now it's just me, a Scottish woman, and I'm a bit worried because I think we need some Māori input somewhere along the, well, we do need it. And right now, the main methodology we're going to be using is focus groups and individual interviews with a thematic analysis. So with the lawyers, of course, with the law faculty, they're very much into words. But I thought, give them a little picture, a little burger thing, that you're going to be questioning students and questioning staff, and you're going to be coming up with inclusive teaching methods and assessments, something nice and simple like that. Gosh, so with the students, we've decided we're going to do individual interviews, and with the staff, we're going to get the buggers into a room and just harass them. And of course, that's coupled with the literature review. So the themes from which we're going to be talking to them about, hopefully will come out of the literature review and our own personal experience being involved in level 5 and level 6 laws teaching. And all of this is under a thematic analysis. Yeah. So that's the point that we're at right now. Yeah, that's the point that we're at right now. That was the last slide. And I get rid of it. And yeah, I was going to say a hell of a lot more, but I'm noticing that the time is going as well. So, so that'll do. Yeah.
Thank you, I'u.
Yep. Sorry.
So we've kind of given you an overview of research and an understanding of what are possibilities. We hope that was really useful, but we'd like to hear back from you. Is there something that's coming up for you? Just this is a sounding board. You've got some of the key people here who have done research and would love to invest in some way to hear about your journey. That's kind of their bread and butter. So feel free to, I'm going to open up the floor if anybody would like to contribute some conversation and some insights.
Oh, one thing I would say is that diagram that I showed you, you've got to keep it really simple for them. I mean, it sounded like it was going to be really complex, but once you keep it simple like that and everybody can see where it all fits in, theoretically at least, we've still got to, so we've got students that we're going to interview, we're going to harangue or lasso a whole lot of lecturers. And yeah, so we're ready to go actually, just putting together questions.
We've got this great question here. How can I connect with you, I'u? There you go.
Oh, yep.
Read that.
Yep, sure. I'll give you my email now in chat box.
Brilliant.
So we've got a hand up from Heather.
Kia ora, Heather.
Oh, hand down.
That was an accident, was it? Anybody else? I know others of you have already been involved in research. Is there just one pearl of just before we close, is there one pearl of wisdom that you would like to leave for new researchers? I know there are others out there that are researching, so come on, let's lend a little helping hand. What's one gem of a pearl that we can leave for our up-and-coming new researchers?
I'd say collaboration with your colleagues is crucial. You don't have to do it all by yourself. In fact, it's probably best not to. And yeah, pull different sets of skills that you can bring, and yeah, let someone mentor you through the process by doing it. Yeah, it's yeah, just get started and find people who can guide you.
One of the gems that I can leave you is be clear about your time frame. That can quickly get out of kilter if you aren't very well organised. So be good with your time frame.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say is, given that we're coming with a particular focus, the learning advisor thing is to really push that angle and as to what we've got to offer. Because if you're working with academics, they've got a really clear, outcome that they want from the research, but they don't realise the type of things that we're talking about, at least the way that we've developed our department is actually quite, the insights that we can give would make their job a hell of a lot easier.
Great. I think Tania's got a couple of words to say before we finish. I just wanted to put in a little plug for our ChatLAANZ journal again. Thank you, Ruth, for the earlier one. But yeah, I think what Deborah, who's not with us today, my co-editor, but we both would be very, very happy to receive any kind of inquiries from any learning advisors who have got something that they think they might want to do. They're not sure how to write it up or whether it is a thing that could be put in a journal. Any questions of this nature, just get in touch. I've put my email address there, and yeah, we're really, really keen to engage and yeah, build a place for us all to feel like we can publish.
Matt, you've got a word, a word very quickly before I give out a pānui.
My pearl of wisdom is this: no one knows everything, but together with your research, we can know a lot.
Woohoo! I like it.
Kia ora.
It's the kōpō of the day. I love it. I've just got some closing message for everybody. Just please a reminder to your Māori and Pacific learning advisors, if they haven't done it yet and they're keen to get a research and travel grant, they need to do it before the end of October. So that means today. So they need
Monday.
done straight away. If your colleagues don't know about that, they need to do it immediately. So please do that for them. Did I miss anything else?
Oops.
No.
Sorry.
God bless the All Blacks.
I don't think they need that, mate.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. And yeah, we'll, as we opened, we'll close with a karakia. Again, please join me. Tū taua mai I runga. Tū taua mai I raro. Tū taua mai I roto. Tū taua mai I waho. Kia tau ai te mauri tū. Te mauri ora ki te katoa. Homi e, ui e, tai ki e.
Pai mari.
Whaasoifua.
Ka kite.
Thanks, everyone.